So, as an example, I just had a press meeting in San Francisco from noon to 1. And, okay, cool. But I forgot to put in the travel time to get from here to there and to get from there back. So on my calendar, I just put 12 to 1. Or, no, I didn't even do it. I was sent an invitation.
Right, so you just clicked it.
I just clicked it and accepted it. Okay, cool.
Right.
No travel
Because the person who's sending me the calendar invite doesn't know that I need travel time to get from there to there. So something should have prompted me to say, okay, when you click accept, now do you have travel time that you need to enter around this thing? Because I just clicked accept and moved on to the next thing.
Or you could have been intelligent enough to know by location where you are and then be able to do that.
Buffers should really be automatic, right? Because again, we know starting destination, we know ending destination, right? And so we should be able to say to you, this 1 hour meeting is really going to cost you an hour and a half.
Right.
Because we're allocating 15 minutes to get there and 15 minutes to get back. So in theory, you're not free at 1, you're free at 1:15, 1:30.
Right. So buffers are something that, Microsoft Calendar doesn't handle. Google,
That's right.
No calendar handles that. So if there are a way to prompt for buffers, because there aren't always buffers. Sometimes, it's fine.
Phone calls, and it's fine that it's back to back. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. So that would be a help to prompt people to put buffers in.
Right.
The other big calendar thing.
Are the things
We're
on?
rolling. Yeah.
Okay. The other big calendar issue I see is the difference between my personal calendar, my family calendar, my work calendar.
Yeah.
Right. So you have all these different calendars to manage, and my wife has things that she puts on her calendar that I don't know about, and so syncing calendars. I don't know that that's in your domain, but it is an issue with calendars.
See, our vision on this is that you've got, your calendar is your time, right? And at the end, your time is your time, whether you're at work, whether it's personal, and so on. And having two locations where you're storing two separate sets of data doesn't make sense because they need to work in one location. So that's why, for example, we did the multiple syncing, where you can sync your Gmail, your Outlook, your whatever. So whatever you're using as personal, whatever you're using as work, you can have it all in one location and start using that to better manage your time. But that's just one, step that we're doing.
Which really comes back to the idea, if you've got all of these data silos out there, at the end of the day, I'm not a working professional or a stay-at-home mom. I'm a person that has a calendar with particular needs, right? And that has to be managed from 9 to 5, but it also has to be managed from 5 onwards, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a question of scheduling time at the end of the day.
Right. Okay, so here's another one. Zobni does a good job of handling your email and processing, telling you these are the people that you send email to most often or receive email from. Or
Did you get a copy of our agenda before?
No.
You're doing great.
No. Or if I did, I didn't read it.
Right.
That's sad, but no, I didn't read it. So Zomni does a good job of managing your email, and mostly in retrospect. For example, people don't know how they spend their time. Right? So I'll get a calendar full of stuff, and if I tried to do a retrospective of how did I spend my time last month, last year, analytics on calendar, nobody does that I know of.
Sure. So the net of everything we're talking about is you've got these data streams coming in, right? And so at the end of the day, it's the calendar's obligation to interpret the way you're spending time, go through the process of analyzing the data, provide you with insight, right? And so we see the net of this is exactly as what you're saying, which is optimizing your life. Right? Yeah. Two problems that we know about. People don't have enough time and they have too much information. Right? You've got to contextualize the information and optimize their time.
Right. So is that on your agenda?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
We're actually working on it right now.
Cool.
There's an entire, again, we've broken this manifesto out into chapters, and there's an entire chapter that we want to devote to the analytical component of all of this information mashing together.
Yeah.
Because,
and so,
sorry.
As an example, we're talking about things like Foursquare data, right?
Okay.
Being able to import my Foursquare data, my feed into my Google Calendar, as an example, or Tungle, provides me with a completely historic view of where I've been over the past X amount of days. That data will then feed a predictive engine that says, you know what, it is time to book a lunch meeting. Let me look back at all the Foursquare data and see where I've checked in most often. Yeah. Because there's a high likelihood that restaurant will work for me. right, going forward.
Yeah.
So the entire recommendation component of this optimization process of the calendar can be fed by bringing in a bunch of different data streams, all of which in their own way will bring insight into what I'm doing.
So there's another company called Rescue Time. I don't know if you know about that. Rescue Time.
Yeah.
It looks at how you spent your time and helps you figure out how to rescue some of it back, right? So that you're not wasting time. We're having an off-site meeting for my group in Google. There's about 100 of us. And one of the exercises I'm going to ask them to do is look at your calendar for the past 4 weeks and put into buckets how you spent your time. And you're going to be shocked at the way that you spent your time, right? So analytics on how you spent the time, and maybe take a look at Rescue Time and see what they do. But I don't even know. I just know about the company, and I know generally that they analyze your time and try to retrieve some of it.
Do you know if it's self-reported in the sense that
it is.
It is. Okay.
Yeah. So that's another interesting area.
But, and also what's interesting is, so we're talking about the individual, right? How can they better manage their time? But then you can also bring it to the enterprise level. And so seeing, not necessarily like Big Brother-ish, he's not booking enough meeting versus this guy, but more as a company, here's how your team, how your employees are spending their time. Here's how much they're traveling. Here's where they're going. Here's how much you could be saving by doing these little tweaks and putting these regulations or whatever. Here are the restaurants where people are going, and maybe you can cut deals with these restaurants and so on. So there's ways that we can leverage also for enterprises analytics, so that they can optimize the time of their teammates and also on revenue and on cost as well. So we see that also as part of our enterprise play. As we're getting into companies, it's spreading pretty rapidly. We're going to give analytics to the individual users, but at the same point, we can also give analytics to corporations.
Right. Yeah, that's a good idea. I think analytics is critically important. Another company, Sixth Sense Analytics. Sixth Sense Analytics, it got acquired, so it's not called that anymore. But basically what they did was they put a agent on your desktop, and it kept track of every application that you used and how much time you spent in each application. And then it did this report to tell you this is where you spent your time, and which applications and how much time. And it also aggregated it up and showed across all the members of your group. See, it was kind of Big Brother, kind of like, ooh, I don't know if I like this, but it was actually pretty interesting.
Too much time on Twitter, not enough time on corporate mail.
Yeah, right. And then you can compare yourself to others in the group to see, how your team, and then overall the company, how time was being spent. That could be beyond the bounds of what you're doing, but it's just another way to think about analyzing time.
One of the other things that we've been talking about as we look at the broad scope here is visualization, right? The calendar grid is something we've literally been looking at for hundreds and hundreds of years. As you bring in these other data streams and the calendar begins to become this dynamic application that's providing insight into your life, it's more than likely that grid is not going to be the primary interface. Let me give you an example. We came out to San Francisco in the Valley, and I've got meetings all over the place. I got meetings in Mountain View, Palo Alto, Milpitas. We're down in San Fran. It would have been wonderful to look at my week on a map, right? Another type of visualization. Individuals, location. Give me a sense, does this make sense? Or am I bouncing up and down? What does this look like, right? And so, as we begin to think about what does the model really look like, the question becomes, does the sandbox that holds this information remain the same?
I think we've been, this grid has forced us to really, tag or index our calendar by event title, as opposed to other ways of looking at it, like location, like attendees, right? Give me a view where I can literally look at the thumbnails of the people that I'm meeting over the next week.
Right.
Or plot those out on a map so that I can see them. We've done it. We've been bouncing all over the place, whereas the calendar really should have known, you're going to San Francisco twice over the period of a day. Let's move that to a separate day and make sure that we're concentrating all of this.
So defragging your
calendar. Exactly.
Yeah. Interesting. So defragging your calendar, that's another interesting topic to look at. But a lot of what I hear you talking about is really what Zobni does for email, Tungle does for calendar. You know, and Zobni's been quite effective at mining trends and information and data about your email that you use every day, and you're on top of it and you think you know, but there's a lot you don't know. There's a lot of analytics and trends that you don't see. So applying those same things to a calendar could be pretty interesting.
We're also looking at all of these data feeds that right now, you know, whether you look at the location-based services or the kind of social applications that we're seeing out there, none of them really have a home in terms of context, right? So, as an example, our PlanCast integration. PlanCast is a great platform for broadcasting intent. I'm planning to be at this event. But it's a standalone application, and there really is no home for that data short of it being on PlanCast's own property. Foursquare as well. So you've got this location-based data that is also very much tied to a particular event, but again, doesn't exist inside the calendar. So, you know, we're looking at this and saying you've got all of this information that's broadcasting out to your social graph, where I am, where I'm going, where I've been, who I've been with. You know, maybe we're a little bit close to the glass, but we believe that the calendar would be the right hub for all of that information from a contextual perspective. So instead of me having all of these different applications that are all pushing data feeds out, let's have a place where we can aggregate all this information and where it can have a home, right? And as such, we then have the ability to start analyzing this data in aggregate as well, relative to my calendar and where I'm going.
Interesting. So here's another thing that may be unique to me because I'm a bi-coastal kind of, I live in Boston and I work in Mountain View, so I'm on either coast. I get invitations to conferences and events and parties and meetups and all kinds of stuff all the time. And I usually say no because I don't know if I'm going to be there or not, which coast I'm going to be on or which city I'm going to be in. So it's too much work to, unless it's really, really important to me, I'm not going to go to the effort of finding out, okay, am I going to be in that city on this day of the month? And if I am, okay, I'll say yes.
Right.
So wouldn't it be cool if my calendar knows, you know, generally where I'm going to be, and it takes all these events, like events that maybe I'm not even invited to, just like there's a seminar at Stanford tomorrow night. Oh, I'm going to be in town tomorrow night. Oh, I could do that. Because I generally say no because either I don't know about it or I do know about it, but I don't know if I'm going to be in that place at that time, so I just say no. So I'd like to have a shadow calendar that says, here's my calendar that I'm committed to, and here's a shadow calendar that overlays that says, here's other options for you. You could choose this or this.
And you can take it a step further too. Like, let's say we communicate by email, and you say, yeah, I want to meet with Mark, but the next time we're in the same city. But we don't know when we're going to be in the same city. So you flag me saying, tell me next time me and Mark are in the same city and we have some free time.
Right.
So
then, TripIt tries to do that. Right?
Yeah, but then it's contextualized in your calendar, and you can know when I'm free and when you're free. It's not just we're in the same city, but we actually have some free time. Boom! It can tell you. By the way, here's a free time that you and Mark are free. You're in the same city.
The kind of suggestive component that you're talking about. I mean, you know, we've talked about a different use case, but very much kind of along the same lines. My calendar, as an example, knows that it's my wife's birthday in 2 weeks, right? Provided that I could tag my wife's profile, and now we're talking contacts, we're not talking calendar, but I could add preferences to that profile. I know that my wife likes shopping at this particular store, she likes these particular brands, this particular product. The calendar can know based on my schedule that I'm passing, as an example, a Sephora. I've got a half an hour between meetings. It's her birthday coming up in 2 weeks. Now would be a perfect time for you to stop, pull over, buy that product that she wants. So again, knowing where I am, where I'm going, where I need to be, what's upcoming in terms of my calendar, we can start to add in that sort of suggestive component as well. Right.
So this is pretty future thinking, kind of a lot of work, and I don't know of anyone doing this kind of stuff. So is this, you're putting together this future vision of calendaring and what you could do to as a way to get people interested in calendar things and buy what you have today? Or why are you going so far out onto things that no one has ever done?